is Rory Stewart. He's got a very unusual CV. For someone running to be the next Prime Minister, he has less than a month of cabinet experience, but plenty of experience outside of politics. He's served in Iraq and Afghanistan, been a professor at Harvard and tutored Princes William and Harry. For his campaign, he's taken an unusual approach, popping up in public places, videoing himself and inviting people to come along and talk to him. Here he was yesterday in West London.
So, Rory,
Hi, this is Rory. I'm now in the slightly absurd setting of Kew Gardens. I'm here partly because as a DFID minister we're doing some very interesting work with cocoa farms. But it's also actually an amazing reminder for me, after the conversations yesterday in Borough Market and Barking, just what amazing things we have in this country and how much we can be if we can come together.
Well, that was Rory Stewart yesterday in Kew. He's taken off his coat and he's in the studio with us now. Good morning, welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Well, I guess we should start with John Bercow. Does that change things?
It does. It means that if you want to get Brexit done, as I want to get Brexit done, you're going to have to talk about getting a deal through Parliament. So this idea that you can somehow deliver no deal becomes less and less likely. People pushing for no deal Brexit sounds like a quick thing. It's unfortunately a recipe for delay, and we need certainty and we need to get it done, and that means working with Parliament.
So as far as you're concerned, any candidate that's standing and is saying that they would go for no deal, we must leave the EU, come what may, on the 31st of October, which obviously if there's no deal means leaving without a deal, then they're not telling the truth to voters.
Well, I think this is the thing that I'm really trying to explain. It's a very challenging thing to explain, because when people hear no deal, it sounds like a very decisive, quick thing. We're just going to be out. The reality is Parliament isn't going to let that happen. So the way to do this has to be through Parliament. So what you're going to have to look for is a leader who can negotiate, who can be nimble, who doesn't have red lines, and who can bring Parliament behind them.
Sounds like Back to the Future. I mean, this is exactly what Theresa May was trying to do. What has changed then with whoever takes over the leadership?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are no magic bullets in Brexit, and if there were, it would have been done 2.5 years ago. You have to unlock this debate in Parliament. I think the way to do it is to follow Ireland, which did this amazing citizens' assembly around abortion, which was an issue like this, very black and white, very polarised. They put citizens to take expert evidence and consider it, and actually they unlock that problem. Then you go back to Parliament, and I think we could get it done by October, but the way to get it done is to be serious about listening to Parliament and reaching across. You
think you could get it done by October? Because I was going to ask you exactly about the potential timing of this, because whoever takes over as new leader, it's unlikely they're going to be in place until July. Then there's the summer recess. It leaves effectively 6 weeks of parliamentary time before that deadline of the 31st of October. How on earth could a citizens' assembly be brought together in that time and somehow come up with a formula that no one else has hit upon to unlock it all in Parliament?
Look, I'm not saying any of this is easy, and I don't want to minimise the difficulties, but I think of the options available, the only one in the end that can work is to take it through Parliament, because this is a country whose constitution is governed by Parliament, and anybody who believes they have a shortcut that doesn't involve Parliament unfortunately is wrong. So what you're looking for is negotiation, and the reason for this is that we have to get Brexit done, because we've then got to go on to talk about things that matter. And one more point on this thing. I know you're going to be talking about social care. That's another example of something where party politics in Parliament is stopping us resolving probably the most important issue in our lives, which is how we look after elderly and vulnerable people. That is a really good example of how we need to reach cross-party, get a national conversation and solve the greatest issue after the NHS.
So in terms of how Brexit gets resolved then, in order to be able, for everybody to be able to move on and look at other issues, you've ruled out, have you, extending Article 50?
I've completely ruled out no deal, but I'm not setting any other red lines. But what I'm saying to you and to the British people is that I really want to get this done, and I want to be judged on getting it done.
If you're ruling out no deal and you're not ruling out Article 50, is an extension going to be inevitable? Because if you want there to be reflection and proper thought given to something that has confounded everybody for the last 3 years, 6 weeks is not going to do it, is it?
So, unfortunately, you're right. If I can't get that done on time, we're going to have to drive it through Parliament. And that means that if you face that choice at the end between trying to do no deal, which you can't do, Parliament would itself push for an extension. That's the reality. Regardless of who's Prime Minister, that's what we've just heard with Bercow coming in. Parliament would push for an extension, and that's why we need to get on with this and get this done. But we can't pretend there's some magic bullet that avoids Parliament pushing for an extension.
You said you wouldn't serve under the leadership of Boris Johnson. You then decided, I think it was put to you, that was quite personal, so you've broadened it out. Tell us what your personal red lines are in terms of who you'd be prepared to serve with alongside.
I mean, you or me or anybody working in an organisation needs to feel that their principles, their beliefs work with that. So if I was going to be Foreign Secretary or International Development Secretary for a Prime Minister that was claiming that we could get Brexit done through no deal, I would have to politely say I couldn't be part of that because, as I've just explained, Parliament isn't going to let no deal through.
The phrase has been used to describe you, I know you don't like it, suicide bomber. It's been suggested that you're standing effectively as a tactical candidate to try to thwart Boris Johnson and lead to a situation where Michael Gove comes in. I know that you've absolutely said you don't like the phrase. You also are standing on principle. Ultimately, it seems your principle is to fight for against no deal. What shape would that take if you don't get the leadership and if a candidate who is in favour of no deal actually got it?
So my principle is three things. It's to get Brexit done, defeat Jeremy Corbyn, reunify the country. But the way to get Brexit done is through Parliament and a deal, and anyone who suggests otherwise is misleading. But I'm in this to win, and one of the things that's so important is taking this out of the bubble of Conservative MPs and encouraging your listeners or anybody to write into their MPs to make sure that they see the truth, which is the way to get Brexit done, the way to beat Corbyn, the way to unify the country is not to try to out-Farage Nigel Farage. It's to appeal to all the optimism and common sense in this country, appeal to the centre ground of British politics, and explain that this is an extraordinary country that could be so much better, provided we stop shouting at each other, sniping at each other, and dividing into party politics.
How many MPs do you actually have supporting you?
I've got a big announcement just come on, Daily Mail, Nicholas Soames. I'm not revealing my full number of MPs because there are about 140 MPs still undecided that I have to win over. And the way that I win them over is by getting out on the streets, communicating with you, and actually encouraging your listeners to write to those 140 MPs.
How do you win them over by getting out on the streets and talking to people in Kew and other places like that? And don't you need to be talking to the MPs?
Because what matters to MPs, I hope, is a better future for this country. And the way to get a better future for this country, brutally, is to win an election. And I think I'm the candidate in this race that is best able to communicate with younger voters, with people in unusual areas. I was in Barking, I was in Lewisham, I'm on my way to Warrington and Wigan today, communicating in marginal seats and Labour seats and proving that I can win those voters back so that we can protect the country and deal with the thing that I really wanted to talk about today, which is elderly social care, which, yeah.
One commentator has said you're definitely the most popular candidate with people who never vote Tory.
And again, what I'm getting is people saying, he is the Tory I would vote for. And I really want to get that across. That is potentially 6 million voters. And it's important to unify the country. We must get young people voting for us again. We must get the cities voting for us again.
Isn't the lesson of what we've just seen from the European elections that that's not appealing to the Tories?
We have to come together as a country. If we accept that we're a polarised, divided country, we're going to end up like the United States.
But how do you do that? I mean, that's exactly what Theresa May was trying to do. It's what Jeremy Corbyn has been trying to do for Labour. Keep on board traditional voters by sort of trying to appeal to both sides of the Brexit debate. It's not happening.
The answer is I'm very different, I hope you feel, to Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not somebody anybody would call a professional politician. I've been in Iraq, I've been in Afghanistan. I'm coming to this fresh. I'm not somebody who's been in the cabinet for years. I believe I can get younger voters on side, and I believe I can reach across. One of the reasons I'm going to Wigan is that Lisa Nandy, the MP there, is somebody who's exactly the kind of MP who could be voting with us in the House of Commons, and we failed to get her on side. Why did we fail to get her on side? Because we didn't talk, we didn't listen.
On another issue, the Muslim Council of Britain has asked the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to investigate allegations of Islamophobia within the Tory party. What would you want to happen here?
Well, I'm very honoured that the chair of the Conservative Muslim Forum has now come out and endorsed me. That's partly because I spent a lot of my life in the Middle East, and I really believe we need to be a party that is incredibly open to all these things. I mean,
but should the Equalities Commission take this on and carry out an inquiry?
This is new to me, so I'd have to look at that. So I don't feel like I can make a commitment on TV.
What would be an argument against the Equalities Commission actually looking into it?
Well, it depends what they're trying to do. If this is creating some incredible process and furore in the middle of a leadership campaign, it's probably not very helpful.
Well, a leadership campaign is going to be gone fairly quickly, but these issues have been around for some time. Is it right that the Equalities Commission properly investigates?
It's right that somebody properly investigates. I'd have to look at the details of who does that. But the principle of it is correct, which is that we need to prove that we are a party that embraces everybody in this country. This is a very diverse country. We have so much energy, and a lot of that energy is coming from people, many of whom are Muslims.
Rory Stewart, thank you very much.